It's October 2022 and the rental market is changing. My daughter and I recently met with a bunch of property managers in a group, and their number one issue was vacancies. That hasn't been the case for several years now, but we're actually having a hard time renting some of our properties, and the values are decreasing a little bit. Changes are driven by a change in the sales market. It's slowing down, and that's affecting the rental market. Tyner Properties has seen our average days on the market go from extremely low 14 days up to about 24 days now, and other property managers are experiencing the same kind of problems in Sacramento. Mortgage rates are now around 6 or 7%, and the Federal Reserve Board is promising to raise them 2 more times this year. There's been about a 10% drop in sales value, market value for properties since the peak in April, May of this year until where we are currently. Before we go into rent value, I'll give you a snapshot of what's happening in the sales market right now. Between April and September this year, sales are down by volume by 30% from what they were the prior 5 years. In April 2022, only 20% of our homes were selling below list price, and now that number is 64% of all homes are selling below list price. The average days on the market for Sacramento real estate were 12 days in April, and now they're 3 times higher at 36 days on the market for the average property to sell, and that's a number that's rising sharply. Between April and September, the median price for Sacramento County has fallen from $570,000 down to $510,000. That's about where we were 1 year ago. Every day recently, our phone has been ringing with property owners who've been trying to sell their property, and instead they're looking for a plan B and maybe considering renting their property out. So all those rentals coming into our rental market is affecting the supply and demand, and that's actually pushing rent values down just a little bit because the supply has increased so much. Many landlords look to Zillow to try to find their rent value. Zillow has a feature where they call it a zestimate, and they have sales values estimates and they have rent values estimates. And the way that they work is they gather information from the surrounding neighborhood and they have an algorithm that spits out an approximate value. So what we've seen, whether we're talking about sales value or rent value, is that when neighborhoods are rather consistent, say homes where there are tracts and they're all about the same age, Zillow is pretty accurate. But then on neighborhoods where it's older and some homes are completely remodeled and others are not, Zillow can be way off basis. Another place where Zillow gets off is when the market changes, and that's particularly true when we're talking about rent value. When a home sells, Zillow knows it sells, and they know that it sold, for example, at a lower price, and they can start to adjust their algorithms quickly. When a home rents, they don't know if the landlord took less money than what they were asking for. So sometimes it's a lagging indicator, and it may take several months for Zillow's rent estimates to start to reflect the market. What we're seeing here at Tyner Properties is that Zillow rent estimates are often about 10% above the actual market value if you're trying to attract an A-quality tenant. Always there's some tenants who will pay a little bit more than the market value because they have bad credit or they have some other issues that they need to get around. But if we're talking about trying to attract the best quality tenant available for a property, then it needs to be priced fairly so that we can attract them. In addition to the rent market dropping a little bit in value right now, we're also coming into the holiday season. People just don't like to move as much between Thanksgiving and New Year's as they do the rest of the year. So my advice to you, property owner, if you have a property that's vacant right now, is to listen carefully to your advice of your property manager. If they're telling you that we need to reduce the rent a little bit to get it rented, take that advice, get ahead of the dropping curve and get it rented. We want to move your property from the 1% vacancy factor back into the 99% occupied territory as quickly as we can. Thanks so much for listening, and we hope the best for you. Happy holiday season.